you going to count me down, or should I just go?
I'll count you down.
Yeah.
3.
This episode of the Slash Filmcast is brought to you by Sonos. For the first time ever, Sonos is offering listeners of the Slash Filmcast 10% off one order of $2,500 or less for any product on Sonos.com. Use the promo code FILMCAST10, that's capital FILMCAST 10 at Sonos.com to receive this exclusive offer.
Also need the HelloFresh ad.
Yeah. I just had to click over, sorry.
Gotcha.
This episode is also sponsored by HelloFresh. Oops, hang on a second. I lost my place there. This episode is also sponsored by HelloFresh. For $30 off your first week of HelloFresh, visit HelloFresh.com and enter promo code FILMCAST. That's promo code FILMCAST at HelloFresh.com for $30 off.
Is that the correct promo code?
I don't know.
I don't think that's right.
I assumed it was.
I don't think that's right. Let me check.
Don't see the promo code.
Here we go. I'm going to forward this to you. Here we go.
Sorry, I thought that's what it was.
No problem. We're doing it live, folks. We're doing it live. Stand by for one moment.
You can just tell it to me.
Is it even here?
Yeah, that's why I didn't see it. I just assumed it was Filmcast because it's always Filmcast.
I thought it was Filmcast 30.
Oh, I haven't.
That's what I seem to remember. Yeah.
Hold on.
Search for Filmcast 30. Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's Filmcast 30.
Right. You're right. It's all right. Ready?
Go ahead.
This episode is also brought to you by HelloFresh. Visit HelloFresh.com and use promo code FILMCAST30 to receive $30 off your first week of deliveries when you subscribe. That's promo code FILMCAST30 for $30 off at HelloFresh.com.
Nicely done, Jeff. All right, let's get the show on the road. The only other thing I'll say before we begin is we usually do ads that are like 5 minutes long. Let's try to keep it to around 3 minutes, if possible. Here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Slash Filmcast, the official podcast of SlashFilm.com. I'm David Chen, and with me are
Devendra Hardwar.
Jeff Kanata.
Joining us today, he's the editor-in-chief of SlashFilm.com. He's also the host of the new podcast at Slash Film Daily. Peter Soretta, welcome back to the Slash Filmcast. How are you doing today, Peter?
I'm doing well. I wish I was doing better in the standings here, but we'll get to that in a minute.
We'll get to that. Joining us also, he's the entertainment reporter for IO9 and Gizmodo. Jermaine Lucier, welcome back to the Slash Filmcast. How are you doing, Jermaine? How's your summer been?
It's been a good summer, but like Peter said, not happy with the wager. Well, happy in certain aspects, not happy in other aspects.
Well, you guys have alluded to why we're all here today, and
it's the reckoning, David.
That's correct.
The reckoning.
It's to record part 2 of the Summer Movie Wager 2017, a consistently requested episode of the podcast. This is actually, guys, this is a record for how quickly we've recorded part 2 of the Summer Movie Wager. Usually it's months after the Labor Day deadline, but we're actually recording today slightly before the Labor Day deadline, which is, I think, unprecedented because it's a very bad practice. Because all the rules...
What could go wrong?
All the rules, all the standings are not in yet. But why are we recording? It's because the standings between who's winning in this group of folks, all the people here on this podcast today, that is unlikely to change. It's extremely unlikely to change between now and the end of Labor Day, which is when this contest officially ends. So we feel extremely confident that what you hear today is going to be the canonical final standings of the Summer Movie Wager for this year.
We might mention some box office numbers, and those might change slightly.
Yes,
but the standings will be
the ranks of the films will likely not change, and that means that our final scores will likely not change.
If there's any chance that you're listening to this and you don't know what the summer movie wager is, it's where we all tried to rank the movies, the top 10 grossing films of the summer in order as correctly as possible.
That's right. That's right. And you essentially get points the closer you are to the actual rank of the film. So if you rank a movie as number 1 and it ends up as number 1 for domestic box office for the summer, ending Labor Day, then you get a ton of points for that. I think it's like 13 points, and depending on like you get extra points for hitting 1 and 10 correctly. And if you choose a movie that hits anywhere, you get points. Let me see if I can find the actual rules here. Let me actually.
Right. At this point, what does it matter? If you're listening to this, I'm saying if you're listening, if you're listening to this.
Let me do this. Okay. So yes. Let me hold on. Gotta make a timestamp here. Yep.
Dave, the rules are arbitrary.
Oh, they're totally arbitrary.
The only thing that's important here is that you did not win this year.
Well, let's wait until we get to the end before we announce the final winner here. But yes, the scores are determined as follows. If you rank number 1 or number 10 dead on, you get 13 points each. You get 10 points for ranking numbers 2 through 9 dead on. 7 points if your pick was only 1 spot away from where it ended up. 5 points if it was 2 spots away. 3 points if your pick is anywhere in the top 10, and 1 point for each dark horse. You get 3 dark horses that makes it into the top 10. So those are the rules, and whoever gets the highest score wins the game. As Peter already pointed out, the rules are completely arbitrary and are not a indication of any prognostication skill whatsoever. But that's the point of games, right, Jeff Kanata?
It is indeed, and this particular game is all about showing each of us how little we actually know about what the hell is going to go on during the summer, because we got together. Yeah, we get together slightly before Memorial Day every year, and we think we have a pretty good idea of what the summer's gonna look like and what's gonna make money and what people are gonna be into and what they're not. And then this time of year, every year for the past 11 years now, we eat crow and we realize how dumb we are and how obvious it seems in retrospect. But this year in particular, I think I think overall in general the scores were much lower than last year's scores.
Oh, brutal scoreboard this year. But before we get going, want to mention a couple of other things that are relevant to this year's game. One is that we had an awesome listener, Dennis, who built a summer movie wager scoreboard for us that people could follow along each week. He computed averages. There's a whole bunch of stuff about the history of the summer movie wager on there. Just go to thesummermoviewager.com. You'll find the leaderboards. Listeners had the chance to play along on the leaderboards. It was awesome.
It's truly incredible. Be sure you put the in there, because summermoviewager.com is somebody else.
Yeah.
The Summer Movie Wager, and it is extraordinary. This guy went above and beyond. There's analytics. There's a history. You can step back through every single year that the Summer Movie Wager was competed in.
Relive all of Jeff Kanata's terrible choices over the years. It's amazing.
I've won more times than anybody except you.
And it's really great. It's also really great because it makes you feel really good until about August, and then you go from first place to last place. It's really good to really puff you up all summer, and then you just know the inevitability is coming.
It's an extraordinary website.
The website's so amazing. There's like almost 3,000 listeners that played along with us. And to just give you an idea of how bad we did, I think the number one person, which I'm not going to reveal, was 207 out of all the global players.
Yes.
So, yes.
Our number one player of us, you mean, is ranked 207 against our listeners.
I should say 207 points. I was like, what?
I should say our worst is 1,768. I won't reveal the name.
I would say so. 206 listeners did better than any of us, which is amazing.
That's right.
And that also means if over 2,000 people played, that means more than 200 did worse than any of us. So I think that's pretty okay.
Indeed.
We're 200 on either side. I think that's all right.
I guess that's one way of looking at it, Jeff. Anyway, also want to mention, if you want to hear the first half of this episode, you just go to the Slash Filmcast archives at slashfilmcast.com, and you can find the first half of the Summer Movie Wager and hear how laughably wrong all of our predictions were before you listen to this episode. So I think that's basically all I wanted to mention before we get going today. And before we start actually counting down the top 10 movies of the summer by domestic box office, I thought we might just take a few minutes to talk about trends that we've seen this summer, like trends that maybe we couldn't have predicted, things that we just didn't see coming. Anything that you feel like is important to mention, and I'll start us off with a couple of things. Well, actually, Peter, you have something to say?
I was going to say the number one thing I think is Wonder Woman.
Yes.
That was not. I mean, that was number one on the box office domestically, and it was on our list, or some of our. No, I guess all of our lists.
All
except for
like 4 or 5.
except for one person's list. Yes, it was on everyone's list.
It was a dark horse. It was a dark horse.
And that might be the first time. I mean, I don't know. We'd have to ask Dennis to go through the stats, but I think this might be the first time in history that a dark horse was number one at the box office.
I'm not sure.
Not to take anything away from Wonder Woman, more than I already have with my stupid comments in the first episode of this, but I think even more than that is the shocking thing for me is how low all of the actual numbers are across the board.
Yeah.
The amount of money that the movies in the top 10 made this year is lower than any of the previous years that we've been doing this.
It was an absolute bloodbath at the box office this year. Actually, this past Sunday, they released numbers. Gitesh Pandya, the box office analyst, tweeted the following. Spending on the top 10 films this weekend tumbled down to a pathetic $45 million. That's the top 10 movies of the box office combined this past weekend. Worst weekend box office in 16 years. And 16 years was the period right after 9/11. So it is a bad time to be in the movie business right now. And
yeah, I'm looking. If you look at the list, I mean, it's funny. Of the 10 movies that we'll be discussing, you could argue 4 of them, at least 4, maybe 5, weren't hits. Like they were all hits, but like if you in like popular culture conversation, Transformers 5 wasn't a hit. Cars 3 wasn't a hit. These movies, but they're on the top 10. It's just you only feel like if you said like what were the big hits of the summer, you probably come up with 4 titles.
Yeah.
The 2 at the top of the list, and then 2 near the bottom of the list that way overperformed in great way because they were really good and original.
Yeah.
Usually in past years of this competition, you needed 130, sometimes $160 million to get number 10 on the list. And this year was 108.
Yeah, so far, I mean, that might change this weekend. It might be a little bit higher than that, but yeah, it's significantly lower than previous years. I think, so Wonder Woman was a box office juggernaut. I mean, if you look back at Wonder Woman, guys, it did not open that big, but the legs on that movie kept that movie propelled throughout the entire summer. Like the drops were insane. You had, 30, 40, 50% drops over the weekends, and that's just unheard of for a superhero film. Like typically, I think Spider-Man dropped like 60% between weekend 1 and 2. Like standard drops is like 50, 60%. Wonder Woman is dropping so little, and that's what took it from $100 million opening weekend to $406 million as of this recording. It's incredible how well it performed.
And it's a lot of it. It was, and I mean, we'll talk about it more, but it's because of what we said on the first podcast. We were all really hoping it was going to be great. And I'm sure that held a lot of people back the first weekend. Then the reviews came out and their friends started seeing it and they started talking about it. And then that momentum, that wave just kept going.
I would say, informally, it's also, like anecdotally, it's also the movie that I feel like was talked about the most. Like when I was at work or when I was talking with people who like to talk about movies, everyone was talking about Wonder Woman. Have you seen Wonder Woman? Like no one was asking me, have you seen Despicable Me 3? Even though I would have liked for that to have happened. But so
it's an amazing thing, and it's awesome. I love that movie with its feel good message and positivity. I love that it did well. I love what it means for the industry with a female director and a female star and a female superhero. All of that stuff is so great. I'm just so struck by how depressed the box office is overall.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at just 2 years ago, 2015, Wonder Woman's take would have put it at number 3. Right? It is Jurassic World made $644 million at number 1 over the summer, just in the summer. And I mean, you're looking at number 1 this year. Wonder Woman made $406 million. That is a huge delta. Huge delta.
Yeah, it has been a very rough summer for the movie industry as a whole. A lot of franchise films did not perform as people thought they would perform, and that certainly messed with many of our lists. Also want to mention this is the year that Malcolm D. Lee proved again, I should say, that he is a box office force to be reckoned with. Girls Trip at over $100 million. That's his best performing film. And this guy has been churning out these small scale hits for quite some time. And it's not a movie that we have. I don't think any of us have seen it. Jermaine, have you seen Girls Trip?
I have seen it.
Oh,
it is unfathomably good.
All right. Yeah,
it's so funny. It's great. It deserves every. Yeah.
We missed the boat on Girls Trip on Slash Filmcast, but we will be talking about the movie.
Not one single one of us had Girls Trip. Not even dark horse. Nothing.
Nope.
We are all idiots, and this is a blind spot that we always have every year. These sort of female marketed movies, and we always mention it. We always talk about it when we're making our list. Like, one of these movies is going to be in here, and we're all too stupid to even recognize that at the time and put it on our list. But it always seems to happen, and I'm glad it does. I'm glad it shows that the audience is more diverse, and it doesn't always have to be sequels and genre films. But that's I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah. So we on the Slash Filmcast missed the boat on Girls Trip, and that's on us. That's our bad. But we will be talking about it once the Blu-ray and video on demand is out. So looking forward to talking about that movie at that time. But have heard great things about Girls Trip and looking forward to giving that movie its due. Wonder Woman, Girls Trip, movies that we didn't think would perform as well as they did, and of course performed insanely well.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yes, go ahead, Jeff.
I know this is all focused on money. This is a competition about what makes money. But what do you guys think about quality level for this summer? Because
overall, excellent. I thought it was a great summer that delivered on a lot of what we were looking for. Yeah.
Which is probably a bad thing, right? Because people, I don't know. I feel like the prognosticators always say that quality doesn't really lead to box office. And yeah, probably not the best trend.
The best trend, you mean that the movies were pretty great and the overall box office was way down? Yeah.
Exactly.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Peter, what were you going to say?
I was going to say on the other side of the coin, studios, this is the first year that they've really taken on Rotten Tomatoes. When a film has not gotten good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and I know Jeff hates Rotten Tomatoes, and that the box office has been reflective of that. Studios are starting to see a correlation there, which is, I think, misguided, but interesting.
Well, I just find it fascinating that studios say, oh, well, the Rotten Tomatoes score is what sunk this movie. The Rotten Tomatoes score generally has a pretty good correlation with how good the movie is, Yeah. So maybe be a little bit more self-reflective and self-aware of the fact that the movies aren't good, and maybe that's why they're not doing super well. I don't know. Just a suggestion.
It also has to do with the fact that Rotten Tomatoes now is integrated into a lot of the places where people buy their tickets, like Fandango. So I'm not going to buy a ticket to, Transformers 5 if I see a big splat there with a 20 next to it.
Although that's been there forever for a couple of years.
For Transformers movies in general, yes.
Well, yeah, but also seeing the tomato score inside of
I think it's less about...
I know it wasn't this year, but yeah, just like I think this year there's a lot more green on there than red, probably. I think that might discourage people.
I would say it's a lot less about Rotten Tomatoes than it is about how important word of mouth in general is, and how much people have the ability to share on Twitter and Facebook and wherever, and Snapchat, like with their opinions about movies, and that word just gets out a lot more now. Before you had to read a newspaper or something. Now you can just turn on your Facebook and you can read what your friend thought of how bad Transformers 5 was. I was looking for a bad movie off the top 10. There's actually not that many bad movies on there.
I think the biggest point is that, just a year ago, in 2016, looking at the top 10 movies of the summer, I would say there's 2 excellent ones, and maybe 2 more that the 2 more that I liked. Star Trek Beyond, Ghostbusters. I liked both of those. Finding Dory and Captain America 3 were excellent. Everything else is really pretty bad on that top 10. And 2017 is almost the exact inverse, where there's really only a couple of movies that are downright bad. Transformers 5. I even had kind of fun with Pirates of the Caribbean 5, even though it's not good.
Did anybody see? I don't listen to podcasts regularly. Did you guys do Despicable Me 3?
No,
we did not review it.
Have you guys seen it? Who saw it?
I did not see it.
None of us saw it.
It
No one saw
was
it. Good.
Dave's number 1.
And he
He
did
didn't
see
even
it.
see it.
That's what I was trying. That's what I was hoping. That was my best case scenario with that question, and it worked out perfectly.
You know the most depressing thing about this every year is that we make fun of these studio executives and are so in doing this list, we all become them. We become cynical, and Dave's putting Despicable Me 3 on the top of the list because he has no intention of seeing it. He doesn't care about it, but he thinks
Well, that's not the game. The game isn't like what movie you want to see most, though we could add that in.
No, but
like
Yeah,
But I think that's
it
partially
is the
why
stand-in
we're
for the studio system. I think.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
Peter, I'm really glad
Pure
you brought.
capitalism.
I'm really glad you brought this up because here we're talking about the biggest stories this summer. Here's a couple other big stories. Let me throw this at your way, guys. Okay. Here's another story. How freaking successful Despicable Me 3 is overseas. Okay. $718 million internationally, $254 domestically. That's a total of almost $1 billion. So we see more of that money moving overseas these days. And had I calculated exactly how much moved overseas, I might be in a better place today. But also, here's a story that I think we're gonna.
By the way, I have a question for you, Dave.
Yep.
Some people on Twitter, responding to the summer movie wager, have asked us to next year do worldwide. Is that something we're interested in? Is that?
I think that will even betray our ignorance even more.
Yeah.
I obviously can't even gauge my countrymen's desire for movies, let alone
Also,
an entire series of cultures that I don't have any access to.
Also, I think it's
a
little complicated because the movies are released at different times worldwide. So I think it would mess with the very simple rules we have.
It might be fun. It might be fun as we have Dark Horses. It might be fun as a bonus or something. That goes away from the original rules, but and it would also be very complicated to keep track of. I'm sure Dennis could take care of it. But it is
Dennis more work.
Yeah, no, but it is an interesting thing that to track because, like you said, Dave, the disparity between the U.S. and this is crazy. Mummy made $80 million in the U.S., considered a massive bomb, but it's made well over $300 million over the world, and is now considered a hit. We are probably now the Dark Universe is good to go because of international box office, and that's crazy.
The Dark Universe is about to be set in China.
Yeah, very very likely. Well, speaking of China, guys, I think that this year is actually going to mark a turning point because of 3 words: Wolf Warrior 2, the biggest box office story of the summer that no one knows about, which is this movie that came out in China, Wolf Warrior 2, and it earned less than $3 million in the United States. It earned over $800 million in China. And it is, I think, the second film in history to earn over $800 million in a single territory. Guess what, guys? The Chinese people, and I'm the only person on this podcast that can say it like that, have realized that they can make entertainment too. They don't need to rely on the United States. And the relationship between China and U.S. box office has never been a smooth one. It's not like China loves welcoming in U.S. films. They exclude certain films because of content. They have a limit on how many films can come in from the U.S. because of the Office of Culture wants to kind of maintain certain standards. So it's never been a great relationship. It's never been a super smooth relationship, and I have a feeling it's going to get even worse. All those Chinese dollars that people are depending on to earn money internationally, I have a feeling it's not on an upward trajectory. I think this year is going to be the year that it all changed for the worse. But that's just me looking forward to the future. Jeff, I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
No, I just want to kind of go back to Peter's point about us standing in as executives for this little fantasy experiment every year. And I think that what he's getting at, and you can correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth, Peter, but I think what you're getting at is that this is sort of inherently a cynical endeavor, that we are, you kind of pointed out that David would put Despicable Me #1 and then wouldn't deign to see it himself. It's like the all of the big general audiences will love this movie, but I don't care about it. And I will say, from my own perspective, my list this year was particularly cynical. I think I was in a pretty cynical place about what I thought would do well, and I am so pleased to have been wrong. I know that sounds like it sounds like revisionist history, but I really am glad, and I'm going to take this forward into next year. I really am glad that, looking at this list, the top 3 movies are all excellent. Like, not just good, excellent. They are deserving of being in the top 3. And if you look back through time, which you can do on thesummermoviewager.com, that has not always been the case. In fact, it was rarely the case beforehand. And I kind of had that baggage of feeling like, oh yeah, all this, the cynicism of seeing these terrible movies make tons of dollars. I kind of crafted my list in that, from that headspace. And I'm so glad that things are kind of changing, or at least this year they did. And I hope that's a trend that continues.
Well, it's a thing. We're basing our lists off past history. So, like, you're coming off a Ghostbusters not doing well, and I perfectly understand why you don't put Wonder Woman up higher. And that's the same way that the studio executives, and you're right, it's all cynical. It's the same way that they're looking at it, and it's almost every year I have not won this thing, and I feel like I do hours of research, way more than everybody else, and I think that goes to show you how little that matters.
Yeah, I would argue the person that did the least research this year won the game, but we'll find out if that's actually true.
No, and I was going to say too, like, trends like that take a while to sort of set in. Even Dave, your point with international box office. I mean, if this is the beginning of it, it's going to take a couple years. I mean, I'm right now looking at the release schedule for next summer. Like, that's pretty much set. And by the way, it is going to be not easy. We're definitely going to make mistakes next summer, but you can pick the top 5 pretty easily because they're all massive movies, and we're not going to have, I'll tell you right now, $100 million movie at the bottom next year, just because at least it looks too big. It looks too big. So I think these trends might change, but it's going to take a while before we get away from this Avengers, Star Wars, Jurassic World.
Some people in the chat room are pointing out like they're violently disagreeing with my assessment of Wolf Warriors 2. And saying that the reason that Wolf Warriors 2 did super well is because China did a blackout ban on many U.S. films to manufacture Wolf Warriors 2 success. And my point is, they can do that, and who's to say they won't continue doing that kind of stuff?
People still had to pay to go see it. It's not like they forced them into the theater. $800 million.
Yeah, exactly. He's saying bringing it home says. It doesn't necessarily reflect a sustainable model or what the people of China want to consume. I don't agree with that. I mean, if China wants to keep banning U.S. films, that is a totally sustainable model. Anyway, all right, we don't need to argue about it now.
Dave, is there any plans to review that film on the podcast? I feel like
I will try to check it out. It's actually playing locally in Seattle, so we actually have a great track record in Seattle of a lot of indie foreign films, or I should say indie films and foreign films. And Wolf Warriors 2, I think, was playing here rather recently. So
apparently, really terrible.
If you haven't seen Wolf Warriors 1.
Yeah, I don't know. Apparently, it's not great. Apparently, it's like a very jingoistic movie. Also, I love Ian Monroe's comment in the chat. He says, "Don't know, man. China knows how to run an economy." LOL, which I think I agree with. Anyway, so those are kind of overall thoughts on the trends this summer. Wanted to just get those out of the way before we start counting down the top 10 of the summer. So,
and hey, Dave,
yes, what's up, Jeff?
One of the trends is that fewer people are going to the movies, but they're not watching fewer movies. You know where they're watching movies, Dave?
Where are they watching them, Jeff?
They're watching them at home. And when you're watching movies at home, one of the things we talk about all the time on the Slash Filmcast, Devindra is always talking about this. You got to have not only that great display, you got to have that nice TV with the high resolution image.
You have to have Jeff's
perfectly.
80-inch television screen that you cannot lift by himself. Yep.
That's true, but too many people ignore sound. Sound is a huge part of the movie watching experience, and if you're not going to go to the movies, if you're going to be watching at home, you darn well better have good sound. You know who has the best sound, Dave?
Who?
Sonos! Sonos has the best sound. In fact, I have been on the Sonos bandwagon for months now. I bought my Playbase back in April. I think I talked to you guys about it when I bought it back then on the show, and how much I was loving it.
And I'll just say, I'll just cop to the fact that I was not a believer in Sonos at the time.
Yeah.
And guess what? Like, I have recently tried the Playbase. I've set it up in my home theater, and I'm like, it has completely changed my opinion on what my minimum level of sound quality needs to be in order to watch movies at home.
It's extraordinary. And I recently added 2 Play Ones as rear surround speakers, and that was another level of extraordinary. The range of audio, and then you can also add the what's the
subwoofer. Yep.
What's it called? I think it has a
Just
name.
sub.
Yeah.
Sub.
Yeah.
To add that low rumble, which it's so powerful, I almost never am able to turn it on because I have a tiny baby. That's how much it rocks my world. But it is room filling, gorgeous, subtle sound that you can crank up and listen to rock music. And Sonos is the best solution because it's all modular. It's all adaptive to what you want. I use my surround sound system to play podcasts. You can listen to the Slash Filmcast over your Sonos. Anything you have downloaded onto your phone or tablet, you can play through your awesome surround sound system. And you can set up different rooms in your house based on the different speakers. And let's say you buy the Playbase now and you buy a Play 1 or Play 3 or Play 5 later, you can always modularly alter your house so that you put a Play 1 in your bedroom, or you put a Play 3 out back in your backyard, or if you got an apartment and you have, you want to put one in your bathroom so when you're taking a shower you can listen to stuff. All of those can be set up as separate rooms. It's all programmable on the app that's so easy to use. It's awesome. I am so in love with Sonos. I've been such a happy customer of Sonos since April. You guys, Devindra, you got a Playbase as well, right?
Yeah, I kind of got the whole system to test out, and what I really love is that you can have a full home theater setup without stringing wires everywhere.
Yeah, the wireless is really compelling. I mean, you have to plug in the speakers. You need to plug in the speakers, but other than that, it connects via your Wi-Fi.
Since I've had an apartment, I've had a surround sound setup in some form, and it usually involves a ton of wires everywhere. It's not something everybody can live with. And the Sonos thing, that's a good solution if you have kids, if you just don't want the ugliness of wires everywhere. And it does sound amazing. I'm surprised, honestly.
Yeah.
And that, because there's no wires, it's so easy to set up. The app guides you through. All you got to do is plug it into an outlet. It sets it all up. It even has this true sound thing where it calibrates it to the room you're in perfectly. Man, Sonos is really the top of the line. It's amazing. And the cool thing is, we're going to give you a special promo code. All you got to do is go to Sonos.com, Sonos.com. Use the promo code FilmCast10. That's capital FILMCAST and then 10 at Sonos.com. And you will save 10% off your order. You can buy up to $2,500 of stuff, or as whatever little below that you want to spend, and you'll get 10% off. That's pretty huge. You can set yourself up with room filling, gorgeous sound, surround sound for your movie watching, for listening to podcasts, for listening to music. All of the music apps are supported through Sonos. It's fantastic. So go to Sonos.com and use the promo code FilmCast10 and get yourself 10% off.
And we'll have much more to say about Sonos in the weeks to come. Looking forward to talking with you guys about like tips and tricks and that kind of thing as we talk about how to get the most out of your home theater system. But let's move on to the rest of the summer movie wager and count down the top 10 movies of the summer. So we've already spent a lot of time talking about Wonder Woman.
Wait, Dave.
Yep, go ahead, Jeff.
Before you get to the top 10, I just wanted to mention one last thing.
Yep.
Baby Driver. That's the number 11 film, at least at this moment in time, with 103.5 million, and it could at this point take over the number 10. So I think it's just worth talking about because all of us, I think none of us had it on our list.
Yeah, I actually remember distinctly saying during the part one of the summer movie wager that I thought Baby Driver was going to make like $85 million. Everyone's going to be super happy with it. It's going to be Edgar Wright's best performing movie ever. But that it's not going to make the top 10. Well, two things happened. Number one, it made significantly more than $85 million. And number two, the entire box office as a whole completely cratered, bringing like over $100 million to being like really within striking distance of top 10. But it is Edgar Wright's best performing movie thus far. It's one of the only original movies that came out this summer, period. And it's an original movie that came out this summer that did really well. So,
and it should be noted that his biggest film before this was $26 million.
Yeah, this grossed more than all his other films combined.
Yeah,
and well deserved. Like, we said the same thing. We said it was going to be. We said this and Valerian. Valerian didn't pan out the same, but there were going to be movies that we loved but didn't make enough money just because of Edgar's track record of making these great movies that audiences turn out for. But because the rest of the summer was so disappointing for the franchises. People heard about a great movie and turned out for it, and I'm really happy. Baby Driver was great.
You know what? It didn't make more money than
what, Jeff?
Ant-Man.
That is a bummer.
You had to bring it up. You had to say that.
Jeff, that's kind of cold. Anyway, but I think also Baby Driver had a lot of crossover appeal from my observation. Like a lot of music lovers could see that movie and enjoy. Like people who love music but don't necessarily see movies a lot. They had a lot to get out of that. With it's one of the kind of iconic soundtracks, in my opinion. We talk about Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino's music supervision is so good that he like the music that he chooses for his movies become forever associated with those movies, right? Mm-hmm. Battle Without Honor and Humanity, is Kill Bill. Like Miserlou is Pulp Fiction. I am confident that the songs that Edgar Wright chose for Baby Driver will become associated with Baby Driver, for decades to come. And that is the mark of a great soundtrack. So
it also there's some deep cuts in there.
Yeah,
like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And also, I expected to really enjoy the Guardians 2 soundtrack this summer, and honestly, it's the Baby Driver one I keep going back to.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Jeff, can I know what you're saying?
It's also an example of a movie in the summer that it was marketed differently than all the other ones. It really felt like the movie with buzz and sort of grassroots momentum more than a top-down approach of just blitzkrieg on everything. And it felt like it had a lot of early screenings. It was getting really positive buzz. They were bringing it places. They brought it to Comic-Con, right? And all this stuff.
In a show of strength, Sony also moved it from early August release to late June, putting it up against movies like Transformers. Bold move. I think it really paid off for them. So
great original poster art that was actually illustrated, unlike most crappy Photoshops today.
Yeah, there was just a lot of goodness around the release, the creation and release of that movie. And so I'm really glad it did so well. And I think Edgar Wright is going to be able to write his own ticket even more than he was already able to prior to this. So
I think awesome. Baby Driver was his own ticket. I think
that's true.
Fair enough, but the budget was funny. like $40 million for that movie. Like it wasn't like $100 million movie. And I suspect that if he wants to, he could make a $100 million movie next. So
yeah. But it's funny, a movie like this does well, and it's an original movie, and people came out to it because of that, and now they're talking Baby Driver 2.
Right.
It's like what did Hollywood learn from this? Nothing.
Yeah, I know, right?
Indeed.
Isn't that a great? I hope there's no Baby Driver 2.
Well, I don't know. I'd be up for it if it was more
Toddler
ambitious.
Driver.
Yeah,
Toddler Driver. I like it.
Nice. All right, let's move
Baby
on.
Driver 2, The Terrible Twos.
There it is.
Wonder Woman. We've already talked about what a box office juggernaut this movie was. Anything else we have to say about it?
Well, I mean, I have to say it's only slightly beating out Guardians 2, and we all put Guardians 2 at number 1. So guys, we were close.
So
close.
All of us except for one of us.
Yes.
So I put Despicable Me 3 as the number 1 movie at the box office, and I will say that for a long time it looked like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was going to be number 1. And you guys all put Guardians at number 1, and I put Guardians at number 2. And so the fact that Guardians was number 1 was really hurting me. But Wonder Woman came into the list as this agent of chaos and dethroned Guardians at number 1, and it basically knocked all of your scores down because none of you guys had Wonder Woman at number 1.
Yeah,
so
the worst part of it is you having it a Guardians at number 2.
Yeah, and that gave me a bonus
off.
too, right? So like it really helped me that Wonder Woman made number 1. But yeah, crazy sequence of events that led Wonder Woman to number 1. So all of us got 3 points off of it, except for Jeff Kanata, who got 1 point off it for putting it as a dark horse.
Dark horse! But I would like to say, guys, I'm the only one that had a dark horse that made the list.
Congratulations, Jeff. It will go down in the record books. Congratulations.
Yeah, baby.
All right.
Yes.
So let's move on. Number 2, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. This is one that I dead hit, giving me 10 points, and everyone else was 1 away from this. So everyone else got 7 points off of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. But what did we think of this movie? I think we all liked it, but I don't know that any of us thought it was better than Guardians 1, right? Did anyone think it was
it's not as memorable?
Yeah. I think it's like a movie that we liked it, but it wasn't, incredible, like blow you away, amazing, right?
It's a movie that like I want to, I want to rewatch it like once every 6 months, maybe if it was on. But like Guardians 1, if it's on like every week, I'll watch it for 20 minutes. Like I think it's got some really good stuff in it, and I think it's a movie that's gonna grow on us a little bit as we look back, at the MCU, just as a weird piece of storytelling. But yeah, I mean, I tend to agree that it was, and I think that sort of is why it didn't do the potential box office we all think it did. I mean, 390 million or almost is quite phenomenal. But if it had been just as big of a crowd pleaser as the first one, I don't think there would have been a contest.
But that was only 284 too, so it was still like a big leap. It wasn't like a disappointment compared to the first one, I think.
No, definitely not. No, the first one did 330. So I mean, it outgrossed it, but
well, the first one I think came out in August or something like that.
Right?
Yeah.
The total domestic was 333.2 on Guardians of 1. So
gotcha.
This beat it by like $55 million, which is a lot of money.
Spider-Man: Homecoming coming in at number 3 with $319 million.
Am I the only one? I mean, you guys dead hit this, which really helped, but I can't believe it made that much money. Like, I really liked the movie a lot, and I know it had a big opening weekend, but I was stunned to hear in the last couple of weeks that it crossed 300 million. It was so quiet, right? Like, it quietly hit these numbers, I felt.
Yeah, I think that it actually also had pretty good legs over the summer.
Mm-hmm.
It kept going on even.
It 8 of them.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and to compare, it did significantly better than Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2, the last 2 Spider-Man movies. Amazing Spider-Man 1 made 262, Amazing Spider-Man 2 made 200. So making... go ahead.
You go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, so making over 300, which is what Spider-Man Homecoming did, is pretty solid.
Yeah, and I think if you go back and you listen to the original episode, maybe I overshot it by putting it as my number 1. But you mocked
I don't think there's
it,
a maybe about it, Jeff. But continue.
And you said you mocked me, Dave, and you said that it would continue the downward trend of Spider-Man sequels, and that there's no way that it was going to outgross the Amazing Spider-Man.
I don't know. Did we say that?
Dave said that.
I might have said that.
Dave was even on Twitter like a month ago, like bragging about how much it was going down week after week.
Guys, what's weird?
It's a small victory.
Do you know what's a slightly larger victory than that? Is the fact that I dead hit it and got 10 points, Jeff. That's a slightly larger victory than your victory.
But if we're ranking victories, I'm just saying I have
if we're counting points.
Yeah. Yeah, what part of this is about counting points, Dave? This
Yes.
is about number of victories, and I have as many victories right now as you.
But I think just like Wonder Woman, Spider-Man felt refreshing in a way too, and it was a great family film. And honestly, if I had kids, I'm sure they would have dragged me to the theater like multiple times. Honestly, I saw Spider-Man like 3 times on my own.
Wow.
So if I had kids, it would have been even more than that. So probably a big reason.
I just think the buzz, like it was just a good movie, and it had that kind of twist to it, which we won't get into. And I think it brought people to the theater.
Yeah,
People want to love Spider-Man, and they've been forced not to for too long.
Indeed.
So don't underestimate the MCU as well. I mean, we talked about that in the first podcast, but that obviously helped big time.
There's that, and also, come on, guys, Keaton.
Keaton.
I wonder how much Keaton brought.
We're in a Keaton-assance.
Keaton-assance. Jinxed, Jeff. So Devindra, myself, and Peter dead hit Spider-Man: Homecoming with 10 points. Jeff and Jermaine got 5 points each from it because they placed it 2 slots away from its actual ranking. Moving on to number 4, Despicable Me 3. This one came in number 4 with $254 million. Huge disappointment to me, David Chen.
Hey, look, Dave, it's almost like I dead hit this one that you put at number 1. So it looks like the number of large victories that we each can claim now is the same.
Good point, Jeff. Good point. So, yeah, Despicable Me 3, Peter called it. He said, I think Minions made less than Despicable Me 2, right?
Yes.
And you said, yeah, it made significantly less than Despicable Me 2. I should have read those tea leaves. I should have realized that.
Yeah, despite seeing that, I thought it was a lock in number 2. Even though Minions made less, I thought it was a lock. But
yeah, it basically made the same amount as the first movie, and you assume that they're going to at least go up from that, when it comes to sequels. And I guess the reviews were pretty bad, but like reviews on a movie like this generally don't matter because the family just wants their kids to see it. None of us saw it, so we really can't speak too much about it. But like, I think I heard that it was really just too much on Gru, on the human characters, where people don't really like Despicable Me 2 for the human characters anymore. So
well, I thought it was weird that the marketing was all around the human characters, like the Trey Parker character and Gru's new ride. Like, people love the Minions.
Well, one thing I want to point out again is that Despicable Me 3 did incredibly well worldwide. I think it's the best performing Despicable Me film worldwide, with over $970 million. So, my gut wasn't wrong about how well that movie would do. It just was wrong about how well it would do in the U.S.
Your gut is wrong.
Wrong.
Dave Chen,
it was okay.
International man of box office.
You know whose gut was right? The guy who dead hit this one at number 4, the old Jeff Meister.
Really?
Jeff Meister, big Wonder Woman fan. The Jeff Meister.
So
I
go
think
ahead,
there's no doubt that there will be a Despicable Me 4. This to me is Shrek all over again. They're gonna keep making these movies until somebody says, God, I can't do this anymore.
Well, I think they're already making Minions 2, which is kind of
basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, what Minions are really useful for? Doing things like cooking for you.
If you had a minion to cook for you, but you know what? I prefer to cook for myself, Dave. It's a life skill that I appreciate having.
Yeah.
But you know what I don't like, Dave? You know what I wish I did have minions for?
What do you not like?
I don't like shopping. I don't like going to the grocery store. I don't like picking out what I'm going to make. I don't like selecting my meal. But that's why I use HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a meal delivery service that makes cooking more fun, so you don't even want to use your minions to cook. And they focus on the whole experience, not just the final plate. You're going to eat more healthy because they are farm to box. Everything is fresher. They only use the freshest ingredients, and the meals are great. They call themselves farm to box, couch to kitchen, and fork to feel good. Couch to kitchen means if you don't think you can cook, you can. I can tell you from experience. I'm one of those people that didn't think I could cook.
Jeff is one of the most incompetent people I know, and
I most likely would stab myself in the face and eye if I was asked to. Now I got mad skills. I'm chippity chopping. I'm dicing. I'm pureeing. Whatever I need to do, I can do because HelloFresh has really clear, easy to follow instructions. You get a little teeny box with all the fresh ingredients already partitioned, and it's delicious. In fact, they have two, not one, but two full-time registered dietitians on staff who review every recipe that goes into the HelloFresh boxes to ensure that it is nutritionally balanced. That means you are going to eat better, you're going to feel better, you're going to have a healthier lifestyle, and you know what's going in your food because you watch it happen. You see these fresh ingredients. Everything they deliver to your doorstep is recyclable, it's insulated, and it's free delivery. It makes it so easy. They've got all kinds of delicious recipes with step-by-step instructions. I find it so easy to follow these instructions. We've established I'm a moron wrapped in an idiot's body.
I mean, just look at your pick for Wonder Woman this year. You know,
right? That kind of person can't do anything competently. I often look at recipes that I'm trying to cook, and I don't know what to do. It's like a list of things to do, and no. HelloFresh has step-by-step instructions. They tell you to do this while that is happening. It's so easy. It makes even an idiot like me look like a master chef. You can be an idiot like me. Don't you want to? Be an idiot like me. Spend less, eat better, feel good, and get some skills. Be a cool person. Man, there's nothing I would have liked more than to have something like HelloFresh when I was dating, because it's cool to impress my wife, but man, it would have been even cooler to impress
a woman that's not your wife. Is that where you're going with this?
That's where I'm going.
I go down this line.
Idiot. I'm an idiot. We established it. You're going to be spending less than $10 a meal. It's awesome. So,
do we have a deal? Do we have a deal for our listeners, Jeff?
Wait, before you get to the deal, I just want to say one thing. The great thing about a service like this is when you have a recipe and you go to the supermarket and you need some parsley, but you just need a little, and you got to buy this big stock of parsley. You need 2 eggs, and you got to buy like a big thing of egg. This just comes with everything that you need, and you don't have all this waste. You don't spend the extra money.
You're not drowning in parsley stalks like Peter Soretta is constantly doing.
That's a huge problem that Peter has. I know, yeah.
And if you want to press the chicks like Jeff, this sounds like a good thing to do.
Yeah. I'm married and I got a kid. My impressing days are over. But still.
Is your wife listening to this? Is she laughing?
Dear God, I hope not. $30 off. We're going to give you $30 off your first week of HelloFresh. That's great. This is a deal for meals that you can't pass up. Go to HelloFresh.com. Enter the promo code FilmCast30 for $30 off your first week. HelloFresh, HelloFresh.com. FilmCast30 is the promo code.
Thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring us. Let's move on to the next entry in the Summer Movie Wager. Number 5, Dunkirk. This is the choice that would be my undoing. This is the movie that fucked my whole list. And
like you were trapped on an island.
I'm so upset because this movie is what made me lose the Summer Movie Wager this year, and I'm really bummed about it.
I think you can probably blame it on IMAX, right? Because it came down to about $900,000, and everyone was told everybody to see this movie, but only in IMAX, which was, about $5 more per ticket. So I'm going to say IMAX. Dunkirk.
Well, to be fair,
won it for us.
If I'm going to be defeated by a movie, Jermaine, I'm glad it was a movie that had an incredible IMAX experience. I mean,
it was an absolutely incredibly amazing. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I should say one thing. Dennis, who runs the website, has the single biggest mistake by each of us. And David, this is not your single biggest mistake. Your single biggest mistake was putting The Mummy at number 10 instead of The Girls Trip.
Well, fair enough, but I will say I was winning the Summer Movie Wager until Dunkirk overtook Pirates of the Caribbean 5 this week. And so I was rooting for Dunkirk to fail, and it didn't. Devindra dead hits Dunkirk at number 5 with 10 points. Everyone else gets 3 points for Dunkirk.
Boom!
I mean, I didn't. I predicted that Dunkirk would make probably around the same as Interstellar, maybe slightly less than Interstellar, which made only $188 million domestically. What I couldn't have predicted is how everything shifted lower this year because the box office was so bad.
Well, you could have predicted it if you were wiser.
I mean, you're right, Jeff.
Informed.
If I was smarter, if I was a better man, you're right. You're right. That's all true.
Yeah.
That's all true. But great movie, and still shows that Christopher Nolan has a lot of staying power, even with a really, let's just be honest, downer war film that came out in the middle of summer. So,
I mean, someone did predict it, and that person is Devindra.
That's correct. Devindra, how do you feel about this?
Feel pretty good. I especially love how much Dave is just trying to like. He's there trying to do the math in the air. I was like, what? Where did I go wrong? I don't know.
That's right. This is Dunkirk is where it all went wrong for me, Devindra.
Yeah.
Number 6.
I also love, by the way, how just slightly more than number 6.
Yeah, literally, it's like a $3 million difference would mean that
a weekend.
A weekend's worth of Dunkirk means I win the summer movie wager. Yeah. So that's upsetting. But
Pirates came out in May, so like you had way more time with Pirates. Dunkirk had a month and a half less time.
Yeah. Anyway, Pirates of the Caribbean 5.
David Nolan enough, Dave.
That's correct. I will never doubt Nolan again, or at least I will never doubt Nolan's power against the rest of the field relatively. Pirates of the Caribbean 5, $172 million or so.
Who saw this movie? How?
I did.
Man.
We all did. All of us did.
Other than reviewers. Like, I just can't fathom. Like, I don't hear. Yeah, we don't see people really.
Well, this is what I was getting at earlier. Is that I think the next 4 movies on the list are movies that I think we probably all consider failures, but all made over $130 million. Like you said, no one's talking about Pirates 5 or the next couple of movies that I'll keep mysterious, even though anybody can look at the website. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think it's just because they're sequels. These are the big sequels, though I guess Guardians and Spider-Man as well. It's just the same old crap, but Wonder Woman was not, and Girls Trip was not, and Baby Driver was not, and that's why those are considered hits. While these might have made more money, but they're not.
Great point, Jermaine. Also, Nathan Stark in the chat room is quoting exact dialogue from part 1 of the Summer Movie Wager, where I said, Devindra Hardwar, you're number 5, and Devindra says, this is again where my list starts to fall apart, Dunkirk. And then David, I say, I think that's a little too high. Words that would come back to haunt me at this precise moment just now.
A little too high.
By the way, I love that our listeners are going out there and writing down these quotes.
Well, it could be he's like listening to the other one, parallel to this one. But
no, I love the fact that David is such a villain that people come armed with ammo to use against him in the chat room.
I'm fine with that. I embrace my villainy.
The hero becomes a villain, like any Nolan story.
That's right. So I think like my biggest mistake, or one of my, I've already said my biggest mistake, but of many mistakes I made, one of them was thinking Pirates wouldn't do very well, and Transformers would do well. I think that's what I like. Well, I'll get to Transformers later, but Pirates, I think, outperformed many of our expectations, just relative to the field at number 6, right? I had it at number 9. Jeff had it at number 7. Jermaine had it at number 4. And Peter had it at number 8. So we all had
That's where my list went wrong.
Except for Jermaine, we all had it ranked lower than it actually was. But yeah, 172. Not bad for Pirates. It's not a hit. I think it actually did way lower than On Stranger Tides, right? I mean, it like you said, Jermaine, you made a great point. It's like it's still kind of considered a failure. On Stranger Tides made $240 million, right? So that's like almost $70 million more than Pirates 6.
And that's
5 did.
That's in my mind a much worse movie. But it was the 4th one, and it was closer to the other ones. This was 6 years removed. Where that was 4 years removed. I mean, it's like, it's like a half-life or a reverse half-life. I'm not going to talk science stuff. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just too far. No one cares anymore. $170 million, I think, when $170 million is a failure, that's a big franchise.
And also, it does seem to indicate the end of the Pirates movies. I think they were talking about this being the beginning of 16 more of them, and all of that talk has rescinded. And I feel like,
funny? No, Jeff, you're kind of. I think they sort of thought that, like when they first made it, they first started marketing it, and because they have, like Brandon, they had the new young couple, and then the movie brings back some people, but then once the movie was out, I think opening weekend, the commercials were like, "Come see the final chapter."
right?
And the Pirates, I think they pivoted to like, let's pretend like this is the end,
Right.
Which is not to say that in 4, 6. In 8 to 10 more years, they're not like, let's get Johnny back. Who knows? But because I'm sure overall it did $800 million worldwide almost. So like again, it's the foreign box office. It did like 3.5 times better internationally. So people are going to turn out to see this movie. They'll probably make another one with $800 million.
Yeah,
the international audiences love Johnny Depp, and it should be noted that like this movie, like from a studio perspective, seems like a no-brainer. Like the previous films were made for like $300 million, and this movie was made, I think, for like $80 million or $70 million less.
It cost it cost $230 million according to Box Office Mojo.
Yeah,
it's expensive.
I think there will probably be more Pirates, but I wish there weren't. So anyway, let's move on. Number 7, Cars 3. Who's here has seen Cars 3? Jermaine, did you see Cars 3?
Of course I saw Cars 3.
I have.
Yeah, what did you guys think of it? I heard it was actually pretty solid.
I actually think it might be I think it might be the best Cars movie, in my opinion.
No.
Yeah,
no, I mean,
that's not saying much, but
right. I kind of found it enjoyable. I think the problem with it, reason it only did this $150 million is it was really more a movie for people who saw the first one when it came out. So for an older audience, slightly, it's more about like growing up and about like parenthood and mentor mentee. There's
not,
like
not growing up. It's a movie about retiring.
Yeah, that's
like,
you're right. You're right. Yeah.
That.
Yeah, there's 45 minutes in the middle of the movie where like it's just about that, and I think it was kind of interesting and ballsy for Pixar, but it never had that juice of a classic Pixar movie, or even like for me, I thought Cars 2 everybody universally thinks is the worst Cars movie, but I at least think that has some fun moments in it, and this has one or two, but it's really kind of I don't know, very very kind of flat line of a movie, but not in like a dead way. I'm trying to come up with the real phrase. It's just sort of vanilla the whole time, where you really hoped for some more.
We should say, unlike Pirates and unlike Transformers, this film was fresh on Rotten Tomatoes and didn't do as well. So
yeah, so it made $150 million. Cars 2 did 190, did slightly worse. Peter and I dead hit this one at number 7. Jeff got 5 points from it. Jermaine got 7 points off it. Devindra did not put Cars 3 on the top 10 at all, right, Devindra? So
yeah.
That gave him 0 points. Not that it would end up mattering.
It's kind of incredible. Like, none of us got Girls Trip, but only one person missed 2 movies on the entire list, and that person won because he dead 3 on 3.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I love the contempt in Dave's voice.
Oh yeah. I'm overflowing. Yeah. Number 8, War for the Planet of the Apes, around $142 million. This movie was really well reviewed, but didn't end up doing super well. It didn't perform nearly as well as the last Planet of the Apes movie, which made $208 million. So it's down like $60 million from Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And it's a movie that we all, I think, really loved. But
it is my favorite movie of the year. I think
favorite movie of the year, not just the summer
of the year so far. And I think it shouldn't have been a summer movie. It wasn't the epic battle that the trailers and the posters marketed it as. It should have been like a November movie, I think.
It was, as I put it on the podcast review, Skirmish of the Planet of the Apes would be a better description for it. Jermaine, what were you going to say?
No, it's an awards movie and a blockbuster clothing, right? So you have all these special effects and war, apes, but it's a movie about being imprisoned and all these like dark, deep themes that I don't think audiences, particularly in 2017, wanted to like pay $15 to go see. A bunch of people, in cages and things of this nature. So yeah, I think it felt more like an awards movie, even though obviously it wasn't going for that. Again, and I agree with Peter. It's one of the better movies of the year. certainly one of the best movies of the summer. And again, I think it's a movie that we'll look back on in a couple of years and be like, I'm not surprised it didn't do that well, but we're still talking about it.
Well, that's War of the Planet of the Apes at number 8 with around $142 million. Guys, do you guys know what learned helplessness is? Are you familiar with this concept?
Yes.
This idea that basically over time, if you keep doing something to try to get out of a situation that's bad, but you fail, you end up stop trying. You stop trying, right? You stop trying to get out of the bad situation. Learned helplessness. I'm being very crude in my description of it, but I've experienced learned helplessness through the Transformers films, because these are movies that have always been terrible. Well, the exception of number 1, have always been terrible, and
number 1 was terrible.
We tried to warn people. We tried to say, don't watch this movie. We kept saying, this is awful. Like it has almost no redeeming qualities. Please stop going to the theater. And these movies kept making bank. It's one of Paramount's only franchises that they have, and they kept doing well over time. And Transformers: Age of Extinction, still solid movie, made 245 domestic, 858 foreign for 1.1 billion worldwide. So that was an awful film. Awful film. We actually released the review of it that we did last week as a bonus episode.
And that review begins with you lamenting never again.
Yeah, I said never again.
Watch another one of these.
Now, fortunately, we were able to raise almost $9,000 for LA Children's Hospital this year.
We did some good stuff for some kids. That was worth it.
That was worth watching the movie again. But the movie was still terrible, and I thought, hey, despite the movie being terrible, it's still going to do well. Well, guess what? The American people. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, I don't think I've said this on the podcast, but I was in the theater with Jeff when he saw this, and after it was over, and even though you guys raised $9,000 for charity, I looked over at Jeff as the credits rolled and said, "Jeff, was it really worth it?"
I said, I love helping kids, but dear God, we all went. No, that's not an exaggeration. So Peter and Jermaine and I were all there in the same theater, and we all walked out, and we must have stood in the parking lot, basically, just flabbergasted of what we saw, just hammering the total incompetence of everything except the visuals. Like just a god awful movie that it's almost like you mentioned that the last one made 1.2 billion. This made 600 worldwide, which sounds great, but for Transformers is not great. When you make less than half, and you know what? Good.
Not quite less than half, but like $500 million less than the last one. I mean, that is incredibly satisfying that this movie did so badly.
It's so satisfying. We're getting Bumblebee, and we're getting Transformers 6 potentially. We're at least getting Bumblebee.
I think the huge bummer is if Michael Bay had turned over the reins to another director like 4 movies ago, we might actually be excited about Bumblebee. You know, like it might be a whole different world right now. But I think he really ran this franchise into the ground with Transformers last night. It's a terrible movie. You should go listen to our review of it with Paul Scheer. But none of us got this correct. We all thought it would do better. We all thought that people would still fall for it again. But the American people decided this year, this is their line in the sand. No more. This movie made $130 million. That's very bad. The last movie, like I said, made 245, so it's like $100 million less than the last movie. That's an insane drop off. So that's number 9 at $130 million. And finally,
and we all thought it was going to get higher. I think all of us just got points for it being on the list and not.
I put it at number 2.
Yeah,
I'm an idiot.
Yeah, Jeff.
That's well
Jeff really giving himself a running as trying to get the worst list of the year or of all time, I should say.
Yeah.
Number 10. Girls Trip. Now, Jermaine, you said you're the only one I think who's seen it, so you said it's amazing. What did you love about this movie?
Well, I mean, it's just hilarious. It's very, very dirty. Like, it is a hard R with language and sex and gross, like, nudity, like everything you can imagine. But it's got heart. It's got, like, you know, it's kind of paint by the numbers, romantic comedy type. But again, it's all about these girls who go to Essence Fest in New Orleans, and they're sort of there during Mardi Gras, and it's a big party, and it's just really, really funny. I mean, honestly, I wanted to see it, I think, second weekend, and I decided, let's go see that tonight, and the showing I wanted to see, we could only sit in the front row because it was all sold out. So we sat in the front row, and it didn't matter. From the first scene to the last scene, we were just dying laughing. My wife and I have been quoting it since a couple of the scenes. We saw it like 2 months ago. Yeah, it's just a real crowd pleaser. And don't watch it like on a plane, I would say, because that's the next place you'll be able to see it. Watch it, in the privacy of your own home, because you'll be very embarrassed at a lot of things that happen, but you'll be laughing hysterically. And I hope they bring the cast back together. They have great chemistry, and there's some really fun characters there. And yeah, I mean, after you see the movie, there's no surprise that it made so much money. Like, it just kills an audience in the best possible way.
As of this recording, it's $108 million at number 10, one of the biggest hits of the summer because it had a very low budget. And so, yeah, all the power to it. It's I've heard it's great. I can't wait to check it out myself. That's Girls Trip. It's number 10. Okay,
all of us whiffed on it, and 13 points is the highest you can get if you nail number 1 or number 10. This year, nobody nailed either of those spots.
Yep.
We also whiffed on the number 11, by the way, right? Nobody had Baby Driver anywhere either, I don't think. So yeah. We were just though Jeff Cannata did have Rough Night, the white version of Girls Trip.
Yeah, I'm a real doofus. Yeah.
So before we get to final score tallies, let's just talk about the movies that were on our list that didn't make it into the top 10. Let's talk about some of the embarrassing choices we made, guys. So I would say chief among them. I'll start. Let's see. What did I put in my? So The Mummy. That was a catastrophic decision to put The Mummy at number 10. Did not know.
Just having The Mummy on any of our lists. The Mummy and Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
That's for everybody. Those are the two big ones that somebody like. It looks like Mummy, Covenant. Yeah, those are the two that really kind of threw everyone for a loop.
I thought so. Yeah, I mean, Mummy was a terrible film, but I thought that Tom Cruise would propel it to at least $100 million domestic. It didn't come even close to that.
It did like 80. It did 80, which I guess is not technically close. And I think if the movie was like 5% better, and I don't even mean like in Rotten Tomatoes, I mean like just in general, people would have like forgiven it. But it's so bad that like there's almost unforgivable. At how just annoyingly bad it is. But if it was just dumb bad, people would have been like, "Oh, did you see that movie? That was cool." But it wasn't that at all.
I put Baywatch on my dark horse, which not only was a bad movie, but barely cracked, did not crack $60 million domestic.
That's pretty surprising too, given that it's a Rock movie.
It's The Rock and Zac Efron and Paramount. It's like one of the movies that they were hoping would be a big hit. Like they're not cranking out that many movies these days, and so Baywatch was one of the ones they're counting on. It performed terribly, so that was bad. And I also thought Captain Underpants might do well. And that movie, I put that on my dark horses. That movie only made $73 million domestic, so it's not bad, but it wasn't like a massive success. So those are my terrible choices. Go ahead, Peter.
It should be mentioned that dark horses as a whole, only one of us got one dark horse on the list. So all of our
and that one was basically a freak accident. With Jeff Cannata putting Wonder Woman on his dark horse list, none of our dark horses got on the top 10.
Well, but looking at the dark horses, which is generally where we all missed, like we just said, they were all not bad choices. They're all sort of in like the 15 to 20 range, which obviously that doesn't mean they were in the 10 to 15, which would have been more dark horses. But with the exception of Rough Night for Jeff, which came in 30th for the summer, and Valerian, which came in 24th. I guess, and then Devendra, who has Hitman's Bodyguard, Dark Tower on his list, and King Arthur. The winner has the most embarrassing list I've ever seen, and he won. It's crazy. I'm sorry, Devendra.
One thing that makes me sad looking over this list is Devendra put Atomic Blonde as a dark horse. Atomic Blonde didn't do that well at the box office, and
that's a shame.
That's a bummer. Yeah, Atomic Blonde made around $49 million, so it's not a catastrophe, but it just I wish it had done better because I want to see like an Atomic Blonde 2 with Charlize Theron, that it didn't do very well. So that's a bummer. Devendra, you also put King Arthur. That was a bold choice for dark horse.
I'm the one person that didn't hate that movie. I kind of enjoyed it, and we'll never see any more of that universe. But I thought Guy Ritchie made something fun, especially what we thought it could be and what most people thought it was.
All right, let's play a guessing game, Jermaine. Okay, King Arthur. How much money do you think it made domestically?
All right, I'm not looking. 45.
Pretty close. $39 million. What do you think the production budget was?
I'm gonna go with about 125.
$175 million.
175 million.
I think
okay,
because
that's a loss. That's a loss.
A lot of reshoots, I think, is what you guys might remember. Like Guinevere, one of the characters was actually going to be the love interest, and they changed the character completely. They had to do a lot of reshoots. It cost a lot of money, and it ended up not being worth it. So anything else we want to mention here? Peter, you put the Emoji Movie on.
Yeah,
on
I was going to say that's probably one of the cynical choices of mine on the Dark Horse is the Emoji Movie, and I was hoping it wasn't going to do well, but who knows? I mean, America, who knows?
Yeah,
and thankfully it didn't make the list. So
yeah, it did okay. I think it did okay. I don't think it was that expensive.
$76 million. Yeah, it did okay. It's not a disaster.
I think they're fine with it once it hits on demand and stuff. I almost said DVD because I'm old.
It should have done worse. It should have done worse. I think
yes,
we all agree.
Yes.
Yeah,
with like 1% on Rotten Tomatoes, I think, or something like that.
And then the only other story I think is worth mentioning, you guys have talked about it already, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. This is one of the good calls I made. I predicted this would be a box office catastrophe. It was $39 million domestic, $177 production budget.
But he supposedly paid for that all before. I mean, it was all gravy at that point, right?
No, that's not quite true. I mean, I think Europa, Europa Films, one of the production companies, they said they've only exposed themselves to a few $1 million. Europa Corp. They exposed themselves to a few $1 million of liability if the movie doesn't do well. That's still millions of dollars that company's losing. And
I would say of all the above $100 million budget movies, at least that movie's budget is on the screen.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It does look really spectacular and is more visually enjoyable than King Arthur, I would argue.
What is that movie making internationally?
It's at 172 total, U.S. and internationally. So
it's basically its production budget.
Yeah, it didn't do well.
Opened in China, and I saw Lucas on tweeting Tuesday, the day that we're recording, that it was the #1 movie in China this past weekend. So I don't know if those numbers include that. It probably does, but
it's not doing well internationally either. That's the problem. Like if it was a huge international hit, it could be okay, but it's really not doing
it opened in China 2 days ago and has made $28.9 million so far.
So it does include the China, that number of 170 international.
Yeah. So huge bummer. But anything else you guys want to mention about this summer? We actually kind of got a lot of enjoyment out of Valerian, but it's definitely the wrong time for that movie, unfortunately. Anything else you want to mention before we do the final tallies, gentlemen? Is that it?
Good.
All right, let's wrap it up, guys. So I'm going to ask for each person to give their final score. Let's start with Jermaine Lucier. What was your final score?
Whopping 43 points.
Talk about an embarrassing list, Jermaine.
I was so consistent, though. That is all. I got points everywhere, down the board. It didn't dead hit. If I would have hit dead hit 1, I would have been there.
How about you, Jeff Canada?
46. Not the bottom of the barrel, baby. Woohoo!
Nice. Not less. Okay. Peter Soretta, how about you?
I'm in the middle, guys. At 49. If I had hit Wonder Woman, I would have been #1, but that's the story.
So basically,
at least Dave
if you had made dramatically different choices, you would have been #1. Yes, I agree.
I would like to
completely.
point out that if any of us had hit #1, any one of us would have won. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, very useful counterfactual there, Peter. David Chen, 50 points, and Devindra Hardawar, how many points?
55 points.
55
points. The world is a hellfire, and nothing makes sense.
Not Chen. It's a victory not just for you, Devindra, but for all freedom-loving, happy people in the universe.
Yes. I really just wanted to destroy Dave. That was really my ultimate goal.
Champ has been dethroned.
He broke up the three-peat. He saved all of us from having to endure Dave's gloating for another calendar year.
He put the Dark Tower on his list. but he was a Dark Tower himself. Devindra's the champ.
And I have faith in Devindra to pick some kind of piece of content, movies or television, that is actually good. Dave used his power for evil.
Evil.
I have faith that Devindra is not going to do that.
Well, guys, let me just say, Devindra, I doff my cap to you. Okay, you have now ascended to the throne. And this is
sheer accident.
This is just going to make my comeback next year all the more satisfying. It's not. I mean, it's not fun to take away candy from a baby if the baby doesn't already have the candy in the first place. So
what does that mean?
Anyway, point being,
I would like to. We gotta give Devindra mad props because he beat us all using fewer films than any of us.
Dead hit 3 of them. That's impressive.
He dead hit 3. He handicapped himself an entire 2 picks by not even putting them on his list anywhere, and he still wiped the floor with all of us. So kudos, Devindra.
So
clearly, nothing in Hollywood makes sense. That's the real takeaway here.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you had asked me, and I think we maybe even said this at the end of the episode at the beginning of the summer, I would have picked Devindra to come in last based on his list, and he proved us all wrong. And
you know who I would have picked to come in last, Jeff? You almost proved me right.
Yeah, almost horseshoes and hand grenades, David.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. So Devindra.
By the way, special thanks to Jermaine this year for not letting me come in last.
Got it. The champ the entire way. If you look at the graph on there.
And the graph is kind of amazing because Jermaine was leading up until mid-July.
Yeah, but
then things took a dramatic turn.
Yeah, I just knew. Because if you're up that high so early, everything behind you is going to make money. So they kept tweeting out, Jermaine's in the lead. And I'm like, why do you keep giving me these props? I'm dead in the water.
Yes.
And then it happened once those movies in late July and August came out. It was over.
I also love looking at the graph at thesummermoviewager.com. The month of August is pretty much Dave winning it, and then that final weekend
at the buzzer for 3, it's good. Devindra wins.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are killing me slowly, and that's fine. I'm okay with it. I've made peace, kind of.
You can definitely hear it in Dave's voice. Like we can feel the moment when his heart broke.
That's right. That's right.
I see it on the graph right there. It's right about 3 days ago.
Yeah. That's true. It's true.
Also, it's interesting that the delta between all of our scores, even from winner down to Jermaine, is not as large as last year, and it's not it's actually not very large at all. It really was anybody's game for a long time.
Yeah. What is the maximum
except for
score?
yours, Jeff? But yes,
is it 100 the maximum score?
I don't think so.
No, we can. Right here, the highest person is someone named Matthew 64, and he got 78.
I think 106. I think 106. The quick math. I think 106 is the max.
Yeah.
78 points. Devindra won with 55, and Matthew 64 got 78 points. That's awesome, dude. Our listeners are way smarter than we are.
Indeed. All right. Well, Devindra, I think you said you don't want to pick the thing we're supposed to watch right now. We'll do that.
I have some ideas. This is a huge responsibility.
Yep.
I really just want to choose wisely. And one thing I will say though, as the winner this year, we will do an episode where everybody watches the thing I pick.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it.
That'll be fun. Looking forward to it. Feel free to tweet at Devindra your suggestions. In the meantime, guys, it's been another fun year. I really am so psyched for my comeback next year. It's going to be amazing. But again, thanks to Dennis at thesummermoviewager.com. Thanks to everyone for playing. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to our sponsors for this episode. They're so awesome. And let's wrap it up. Stay tuned to hear what we'll be reviewing next week. In the meantime, Devindra Hardor, where can I find more of your work on the internet this week?
You can find me on Twitter at Devindra, and I write about tech at Engadget.com.
How about you, Jeff Kanata?
I have several other shows, including 2 video game shows, one called Newest, Latest, Best that you can find on iTunes and Google Play or at anchor.fm/NLB. I also have a video game show called DLC that you can find at 5by5.tv/DLC, and a comedy science show called We Have Concerns that you can find at wehaveconcerns.com.
How about you, Peter Serretta?
You can find me at slashfilm.com. This past month, we launched a daily podcast called Slash Film Daily. You can get the latest news from slashfilm.com in bite-sized chunks every weekday. You can find that on iTunes. Just search Slash Film Daily, or you could go to daily.slashfilm.com and find it there.
Jermaine Lucier.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, at Jermaine Lucier, one word, and I am writing about movies every single day on io9.com and gizmodo.com.
I'm on Twitter at Dave Chensky. Find my other stuff at davechen.net. Next week, we're going to be reviewing the new Reese Witherspoon romantic comedy, Home Again. No, I'm just joking, guys. We're going to be doing It, the reboot or remake of the Stephen King horror film directed by Andreas Muschietti. Really looking forward to this one. It's going to do really well at the box office, I think. And I think people will be talking about it for a long time.
What do you know about how stuff does at the box office?
I hate you.
Someone really needs to print the ABC T-shirt, the Anybody But Chen.
Anybody but Chen.
Indeed. I've been hearing that my whole life on dates. Okay, guys. Thanks for listening to the official podcast of slashfilm.com. This has been a lot of fun, guys. And we'll see you with more Summer Movie Wager next year. We'll see you with a new episode of the Slash Filmcast next week.